by the way, welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to y'all, right? And we're supposedly live on the internet now, so welcome to you also out there in the internet land. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. And by the way, out there on the internet, if you would be interested in participating, either with a like or a question or a comment, that would be great on whatever platform you're watching on, if it's YouTube or Facebook or well, basically that's all we got right now. But so anyway, tonight we're going to be talking about step 8. We're not going to be here next week live, so this will be our last step 8 that we're going to be discussing. Next time we'll be on step 9. Step 8 here is we made a list of all persons we have harmed. We're talking about making a list, okay? We're just talking about being willing to make a list of all persons we've harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. And that is so important to our topic tonight that we're going to be talking about. Yes, because making amends in those areas that we can is so important to help us to not only change our behaviors, our emotions, our habits. How about that? But it also helps us when we come to the places about the things that we can't fix. And we're going to be talking some about that tonight, hopefully, that there are stuff that you can't fix. I can't fix. Nobody can fix. The only person that we can take it to at that time is to God, and He is the only person that can fix that. Doesn't mean He can change the past, but He can help us to come to the place that we're able to let it go so it no longer is a weight inside of us. Did I say weight? I want to make sure I said weight inside of us that causes us to do stupid stuff. Anybody know what I'm talking about? The weight that causes stupid stuff? Hello? You're giving me that grin. Okay, all right. So anyway, we'll be talking about all of that because tonight's topic is overcoming loneliness. And there's a lot of research says that loneliness is the #1 thing that causes addiction, addictive behaviors, impulsive, obsessive reactions, okay? And so, and that's what Saturday Night Live is all about, is to help us to deal with the messes of life. We all have messes, and we're all fellow strugglers. I'm a fellow struggler because we all got stuff, okay, right? Stuff out there in TV land. Do you have stuff? Of course you do, because we all got stuff. Now, some of the stuff you've hidden so deeply you're not even aware of it, but it still affects you. Have you ever noticed that? We've turned the light off, but it still messes with us. I remember a time I said, why do I act this way? Why I keep doing the same thing over and over? How come I continually react in that way? And that's because of that deep stuff that we all have. Okay, so we'll be talking about step 8. And tonight, I'm going to be talking about, am I willing to forgive myself? I'm going to be addressing that. How about that? Because, see, that's right down this same line. Kind of ties into last week quite a bit, but we're going to be talking about why won't you forgive yourself? Am I willing? Am I willing? Why aren't you willing? Why are you so mean to yourself? Have you ever thought about that? Okay, and so we'll be addressing that, and also I do have, I don't know if we'll get to it or not, but I have 9 things you need to know about shame, and I'm going to also be talking. Hi, Kenny, come on in. I'm going to be talking about shame and guilt are different emotions. Okay, so we got just all kinds of stuff, and If we get to it, we get to it. If we don't, then I guess we don't. So, anyway, thoughts, questions, quotes, okay? Anybody here have ever heard of John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy, okay? Yes, one of our presidents. He said this: effort and courage are not enough without purpose of direction. What do you think about that? Read that again. Effort and courage are not enough without purpose and direction. You know, oftentimes I ask the question, what is it that you want? What is it that you really, really want? The trouble is, oftentimes we get sidetracked on what we want, and that pollutes what's going on in our life. It even sabotages what we want because we get sidetracked and doing things that affects our life negatively because it doesn't line up with what we want. What do you think about that? Something to think about? Okay, thank you. All right. I had a fella tell me this the other day on the phone a few weeks ago, and I wrote it down, so I thought I'd throw this in the mix today. And it says, I find out a lot about myself when I'm not getting my own way. Did we make any connection there? All right. This is a statement from Brene Brown. Anybody familiar with Dr. Brene Brown? I've gone over a lot of her material many years ago, but I come across her again last week, and anyway, I thought this was pretty good. I'm going to start off with the condensed quote, and then we'll expand the quote. The absence of love and belonging, there is always suffering. So with the absence of love and belonging, there is always suffering. Now, let's go on and hear what Brene says a little bit expanded. She says this. She says, the one thing that I know for sure after 200,000 pieces of data, she's a researcher, by the way, on grief and loss, 200,000 pieces of data, I know love and belonging are irreducible needs of all women, men, and children. In the absence of love and belonging, there is always suffering. That I know for sure. Then she concludes by, may you love and know that you're loved as deeply lovable. She's got a lot of good information, and I may be talking about some of her stuff on down the road. If you come across any of Brene, not Renee, but Brene Brown, I would recommend that you listen. She's got several books, and she's a professor. Well, she was a professor. She may still be in a university in Texas. So, okay, let's see. I had one more marked. There it is. This is Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says, we are all challenged by great opportunities, disguised as possible situations. We are all challenged by great opportunities, disguised as impossible situations. When we come up against difficult situations, or what we might call impossible situations, sometimes the amygdala kicks in and causes that fight or flight. You either fight it, which usually sometimes in fight, it's usually all about anger, right? Using our anger to fight it, defend, armor up, harden up, or flight, take off. And so, but if we're going to mature and grow and have true recovery, we have to be willing to address that stuff that challenges us. What do you think about that statement? Okay. All right. So we're going to be talking about loneliness tonight. We're going to start off with the reading of the steps. And Brandon's going to come up and read the step for us. I appreciate it, Brandon. Come on down.
How's everyone doing? All right. 12 steps. Step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we became to believe in a power greater than ourselves that could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons that we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, we make direct amends to such people and whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Thanks.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon.
I was thinking, I've been so lonely before I relapsed. Because I was lonely, bored. And things got worse. Step 8, overcoming loneliness. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Loneliness and isolation go along with the guilt and shame we feel about who we are and what we have done. We may feel so cut off from others I lost it. Where is it? Okay. We may feel so cut off from others that we feel lonely even when we are around other people. Guilt, fear of being hurt, and self-hatred can make us unable to believe in the love others have for us. We can feel all alone in the struggle even when there are people beside us who want to help. Being willing to accept their love is part of the preparation for making amends. Wise King Solomon observed, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help, but someone who falls alone is in trouble. Likewise, Two people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. Loneliness can break us and defeat us in the recovery process. When we prepare to make amends, we also need to prepare our heart to accept whatever love, support, or friendship is offered in return. These supportive relationships, along with God's supporting hand, will strengthen our life considerably. With our friends and God joining with us to form a triple braided cord, we will not be easily broken or turn from the path to recovery. Loneliness sucks. Because I was thinking, this whole summer I've been like having to stay out of the sun and stuff, and I've had, like, in the beginning I was alone. It was like being 12 years old and being told get your butt to the room, don't come out until I tell you, kind of deal, you know. But finally I realized that I got lonely and I started annoying myself because there was no one else around to annoy. So part of myself was not happy with my other part of myself, and then I realized it was time to just realize that that's just how this summer's going. And I can go down the poor me path, or I could just accept it. And it helped. It's kind of like I made amends with myself, you know? Because I knew I had to do it, but I didn't want to. I learned something about putting myself in situations where I have to become lonely, because I don't pay attention to how I interact with the people I'm around. And other people have problems I'm learning. And sometimes, like, their blow up can cause me to just be like, I don't want to be around nobody. I had a friend, she wrote this: patience. I was dealing with a stressful situation, but we had a target, we were trying to achieve something, and she gave me these to help from triggering that side of me that just wants to hide from everything. Or not hide, but just, I guess, yeah, hide. Patience, observation, response, and non-judgmental. And it says, notice feelings, name them, notice where they are in your body. That never made sense until one day I did the ice pack, the hot cold, and I was doing the deep breathing thing, and I finally realized, I was like, oh, I feel it in kind of like here, like right here, and it's like, all right, and that helped, because the fight or flight kicks in, all of a sudden, boom, you're stuck. Dark hole can lead to a bad place, and it's not a good thing for me. I noticed a lot of times I put myself there when I could have just kept on moving past it. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Tommy? So what helps you the most to deal with your loneliness?
Came to a realization, I don't own their problems. I want to say something else, but I finally realized it's not as bad as, because getting clean and off drugs is not like, oh, bam, all of a sudden I'm perfect, life's great, I'm redeemed from drugs, and Jesus saved me. Sorry, but that didn't work for me. I had to learn. And it's taken 22 years of learning about my addiction and being in and out of it to get to where I am today, to have the strength to know that when those lonely times are there, that God's on my side still. Then, you know.
So, so why do you think it took a while for you to understand some of that?
I was lonely.
Yes?
I was lonely.
Okay.
I've been lonely since I was a little kid. You know.
Okay.
But loneliness, there was pain. You know. I found strength in the drug and power, and you know.
And so is there another emotion that comes along with that loneliness?
Oh, when you get rejected, like resentments, fear, panic, rage. You can have rage when you're lonely.
What about trust issues? Is that
Oh,
what you just
yeah.
said, Will? A lack of trust?
Yeah.
Did you say that, Will?
I didn't say nothing.
Are you sure you didn't?
Say that again. Trust issues?
Does trust issues go along with loneliness in any way, you think?
Well, yeah, because it's like back in the day when I didn't understand. I lived the way I lived, and that's the way I lived. And I'm not there today. But back then, I didn't trust nobody coming up saying they wanted to help or, oh, we see you in this. I didn't trust those people.
And so, how have you been able to process into a better place with the loneliness and maybe trust?
Staying away from people.
So isolation is what got you there.
So isolation is the solution? Is that what you're saying?
No, I stayed away from the people that triggered me that wanted to be lonely.
Okay, all right. Now, that's a different kettle of fish, right?
I learned where to not wear out my welcome so fast.
Say it again.
I learned where to go and I wouldn't be wearing out my welcome so fast.
All right. Yeah.
And that protected me from, I get in situations today where I'm like, Tommy, you shouldn't have done that. You know, but
But see, I keep hearing you say you're making aware statements that you're able to be aware of these now, where maybe earlier in your life you weren't aware of all that.
I couldn't even figure out how to get up in the morning and tie my shoes. Basically, yeah, I could, but I couldn't. I didn't know where I was going in life. I didn't know how to even get there.
So then the first step of your recovery is to start to become aware of what's going on.
To be present.
Be present.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about what so and so did or said 6 months ago because it's not going to affect me in the long run. Why do I? That's just thinking of the things that put me in
Sure.
isolation.
So
Not
if
cops
you
or
were
the feds
to
or whatever,
communicate your best wisdom to somebody here in this room or out on TV.
Well, I just thought of something.
Go ahead, shoot it.
Okay, when you get arrested and sometimes you get put in isolation. And I've had times in my life, I've been in isolation when I was younger, locked up. And it's almost the same feeling of being locked in that room or being locked in yourself, it's so similar, it's like there's no escape. It seems like even if the door's locked or it's not.
And is that because of the fear and darkness inside? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
it's
saying?
it becomes a comfortable place because back then I didn't know what this side of life looked like. I didn't know recovery. My brain couldn't even.
So what's your best thought or guidance for somebody that's struggling with loneliness today?
Make a friend,
What's
meet
it?
a new friend, like a newfound friend. Just go for a walk and say hi to somebody. I do that. I do it not all the time, sometimes. Just make a friend. Find a friend. There's friends out there. If you got trust issues, don't get too involved too fast, or go to an old friend. It's about making amends, right? That old friend might need you,
So basically, go slower.
Yeah. Watch your step.
Sounds good, Tom.
Thank you. Oh, I wanna read these questions and Willie's gonna answer them.
Sounds good?
Oh, you put me on the spot here.
I thought we already agreed to this.
Alright.
What happened? Nice to see you guys. Yeah. How have I allowed isolation due to shame and guilt to keep me from supportive relationships? What is the role of shame and guilt in my isolation to keep me there? Am I willing to forgive myself for the hurt I have caused others? I try. No, but am I willing to forgive myself for the hurt I have caused others? I read that backwards. I read it like this: am I willing to forgive the people that hurt me? That's the way I seen it. Like I also seen it that way, you know. But yeah, I am. Do all the time. Sometimes I find myself in the same room with people. I'm like, whoa, dude, don't want to be around them. But
So you say you are willing to forgive yourself?
yeah, the more I forgive myself, I'm able to be in situations that I normally wouldn't feel comfortable in.
Why is that, you think?
The more I get out of loneliness and the fear of rejection and whatever, not being accepted or something, you know, I'm just a worthless drug addict anyways, you know, what type of thinking, you know. It clears it up.
So if you can shake some of that off, then you're more apt to be able to interact with other folks?
And strong, I've noticed I've had it, like sometimes you get more strength to handle an even worse situation with less fear of being in isolation. It's something that I've been noticing, because I have some people that I'd rather just truly not even see, you know, but not because I don't like them or nothing, it's just not on the same page and not on this planet with them, you know. And but then I realized, you know, those probably are the people that God wants me to interact with, so that I can show myself to, or show God through Himself to them.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
Now, others may not know, but I knew.
Oh, that's great. No, but I mean, I don't know. I had someone say, "Well, you don't seem no different. You're still the same person." But it's like, I'm human. I'm like, recovery's not, you know, it's like totally erased everything I ever was and make me a totally new, different person. I was one of the confusions I had in the beginning. Nope. It's all good though. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah.
Thanks. No, you're not.
Who is
Tommy. Okay, Willie.
My name's Bobby.
Bobby.
Overcoming loneliness. To overcome anything, first of all, you gotta find out what it is that caused it. You gotta understand where loneliness comes from, figure out what the cause of it was, and then you can fix it. Helping you out is finding that friend that Tommy was talking about. But that friend needs to be able to pick you up and not bring you down. Because if not, it ain't doing you a bit of good. I'm done.
Wait a minute, you didn't answer the questions.
Oh,
He took them with him. I don't have my book with me.
Here. Yeah, I don't follow the rules very well.
Yeah,
You want me to stand up here and read it to you?
no, I should be
It's
able
like
to, I can handle it.
like a 2-strand cord.
I can handle it. How have I allowed isolation due to shame and guilt keep me from supportive relationships? I didn't want it. I just didn't want it. If you don't want it, you ain't looking for it. You ain't looking for it, you ain't gonna find it.
Well, I guess the question would be why you didn't want it.
Why I didn't want it? because really didn't care. I done, you know,
Then I guess the next question would be why you didn't care.
I have a question. How did you know you didn't want it? Same thing you said.
because, you know, you done felt that loneliness, and you're done feeling to yourself that, hey, I don't need it, so you just don't want it, so you're not looking for it.
Okay.
You gotta look with your heart instead of your head.
I was gonna say that because, like, my brain might be saying, "Dang, it'd be nice to get high today," and my heart's going, "No, dude."
What is the role of shame and guilt in my life, in my isolation? Keep me there. They don't want me to get better.
That's true.
And that's all it does. Okay, it kicks in, says, hey, you're doing good right here by yourself.
I'll show them, they won't see me for
Right.
a while.
Am I willing to forgive myself for the hurt that I have caused others? Yes. It's the only way I'm gonna get better. Next question.
Well, I think I worked you over enough here.
Okay,
You're
we're good.
you're still a rookie,
Yes, I am.
so
Lucky I even did this one.
I'm lucky. You're probably lucky, right?
Well, yeah. If I didn't need it, I wouldn't have done it.
Calm down before you get isolation.
Well, thank you, Brandon, for reading, and thank you, Tommy,
Bobby, yeah.
for sharing the step and your insights, and then Willie, thank you for your comments, and Will, thank you for your insightful input in there. All right. So, what does that scripture mean there when it talks about a triple braided cord? What does that mean?
Tight with each other.
Do what?
You gotta tight with each other.
Tight with each other?
And like,
Triples
bros.
Do what?
harder to break.
Harder to break. And it's stronger than the sum of its parts, right? Because it multiplies the strength. Is that what she's gonna say?
No, we're gonna say the word.
Okay. And so in the information that Tommy read, it had that we can have this triple braided cord to help us in our recovery. And one is you, the other is God, all right, that he, and then the other is your support team that's around you. And with those ingredients woven together, it makes you more resilient. It makes you stronger. It makes you able to withstand more, and be able to do what you say you want to do without sabotaging yourself, like I was talking about earlier. Would you agree with that? And so, and that's so important to work in a team. You know, it made reference to if you're in a fight or in a battle, if you are able to fight back to back, then you're more apt to be able to. You are harder to defeat because you're in back to back. But if there's three of you, that even makes you more apt because you have more sides covered and you have more people involved. And that's why having support, being involved in a support meeting, having people that support you and that will help you, they can be a part of your program, not to do it for you, but to assist you in your process, okay? All right? I was talking with a person here a week or so ago, and they were really upset. I mean, they were frustrated because the person that they love and care about, and was really afraid for them, totally loving, but because they were so upset and so intense and so afraid that something was going to happen if they couldn't do their job perfectly, actually was causing friction and actually causing even a bigger disturbance. Basically, they were fighting. Does that make sense? And both of them didn't like the way they were behaving because they both wanted the same thing. But the trouble is, they were well, one was trying to control the situation. The other person was trying to control it, but trying to force the other person to comply. And it becomes a fight. Anybody ever had any of those? So I don't need to go into all that. You guys probably been there, and you're not going to say anything, right? Okay, I already got that. I get that, but I can read it on your face. And so we need a support team to help us, because the point here is, if we try to do it alone, we are more susceptible and easily taken. Yes, sir.
I've been working at a job for the last 6 years.
Congratulations.
Yes,
That's awesome.
that's all.
That's great, Mike. Hey, it's glad you're here. It's been a long time since you've been here, so I'm glad you're here. So we need, yes, sir.
Saying that last phrase you said, even though I've been having to stay in the house all summer, it's not lonely, because it's not like I had toxically had to put myself there.
What you're saying is you weren't hiding away. It wasn't a toxic isolation.
Yeah.
It was for other healthy reasons.
Yeah.
So, and that makes a difference. But even with that, if we're not careful, we can get overwhelmed with loneliness, because we were designed and created by God to have a relationship
Yes.
with Him and with others. And when we try to avoid that system, okay, then we are missing vital strength and support, emotional strength, mental, spiritual strength, if we don't have that. Now, you can go too far, and it's all about go too far in the realm of relationship and not have a healthy balance. There's a healthy balance to everything, right? Hello? Okay. All right. Some comments on why am I willing to forgive myself? Okay? I have some things for you to think about, because we all struggle with not forgiving ourselves. Would you agree with that? Okay? And so how can I help you to help yourself, right? All right, so here's some thoughts for you to think about. And I thought they were interesting. Some are better than others. And by the way, this was taken off of Psychology Today website, and it was number one. I think it's Psychology Today. Maybe the other thing is off Psychology Today, but anyway, focus on your emotions. Tommy talked about that over and over and over. You have to focus on what's going on. Denying it, shoving it down, suppressing it, or pressing it down, only internalize it. Because one thing about emotions, when you bury them, they don't die. They stay alive. Okay? And and then those emotions seem to squirt out at a very inappropriate time. Have you ever noticed that? Hello? Okay, so we need to focus on our emotions. We need, whether it's our feelings or whether it's our body, we need to be aware. Our body can be sending us signals to help us. And our emotions can be sending us signals to help us. But if we're not willing to listen to it, then we miss the help. Okay? God can be speaking to us and trying to send us messages, whether it's through our body and with physical feelings, or through our emotion with emotional feelings, or through thoughts, okay? And if we're not paying attention to them, we miss the help. Okay, does that make sense? And I'm saying we on purpose, because in my earlier years, I pretty much eliminated my emotions. I only had really one emotion, that was anger. Okay? And so, and I thought that was a good thing. In fact, for many years, even after I was a Christian for 10 or 15 years, I thought that was a way to go. In fact, I even looked at people that were spiritually emotional as not necessarily, I tolerated them. Let's put it that way. I tolerated them. But you know what? That was part of my own toxic stuff. Okay? And so, but one day, because I was trying to connect with God, and He told me that I needed to open up to His emotional aspect. And I said, I don't know that I don't know that I'm really interested in that. And He convinced me by saying, well, that's 1/3 of your being. And if you eliminate 1/3, then you've eliminated 1/3 of how I can work in your life. I didn't like that either. You know what I mean? So I had to learn how to change and begin to integrate emotion into my life in a healthy way instead of in a toxic way that I had tried to push out or lock down or suppress or eliminate. Does that make sense? It doesn't really make sense, but that's what I did. Okay? So, if I take as long on the rest of these, we're going to be here for a while, aren't we? So, acknowledge the mistake out loud. Now, that may sound strange. Acknowledging the mistake out loud, because, there's been times I heard say some stupid stuff that was probably in my head for a long time. It probably never happened to you, right? And I remember one time I was watching a Christian TV show. I was at a pastor school, the first one I'd ever really went to, and this was back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I was watched this guy on TV, and he was singing, he was happy, and he was excited, and he was wound up, and I heard this come out of my mouth, and I said, there's no way that anybody could be that happy. And I thought, did that come out of me? That sounds extremely cynical. But that was part of God helping me to start to open up, because during that meeting there, God really wanted to visit me, and He did visit me, and most of it was through my emotions. Anyway, that's a little piece of my journey. How about that? So, acknowledging your mistakes out loud, because you can't fix what you won't acknowledge. You can't fix it, you can't deal with it, you can't do anything with it until you acknowledge it. And when you say it and you hear it, it registers in a different place in your brain. Okay, let's go to the next one. A way to deal with being able to forgive yourself, okay? The next one is think of, okay, that's it. I did the handwriting thing, so I have to decipher my writing a little bit, and it's small there. So think of each mistake as a learning experience. And that is a mental discipline. Recognizing, because you've heard me say to many people when they've relapsed or made a mistake, I will say, well, what'd you learn? What'd you learn out of it? Because we need to develop a habit of getting the lesson out of it, learning from it. Why do I say that? Well, because if you just look in the Old Testament, the Israelites kept making the same mistake over and over because they never learned. They keep doing the same thing, just like the rest of us. Have you ever noticed that? So if we can learn from our mistakes, so the situation that happens, what did I learn? Instead of saying, it's their fault, it's the government's fault, it's my mother's fault, which probably was, but I have to take responsibility for what's going on. Because I can't fix anything that I'm not aware of and that I'm not willing to deal with. Hello? That's the reason why I was working on you a while ago. Okay? All right. Let's go to the next one. Give yourself permission to put this on hold. You know, there's been times I've had to I called it, put it on the shelf. Okay? I will deal with that. You put it in. I can't deal with it in this very moment, but I will deal with that. I'm going to deal with that. Does that make any type of sense to you? So give yourself permission to do that, okay? Next one. Have a conversation. I think this is important. I put this in yellow. Have a conversation with your inner critic. Anybody aware of your inner critic? Okay? That sucker yells at you. Okay? And it's all critical. I had a guy tell me today, he said, well, I think the enemy, the devil, was talking to me about this particular situation, and I wasn't for sure what I was going to do. And I said, anytime you know the devil or the enemy's talking to you, then you know it's a lie. If he's trying to get you to do something, you know it's a lie. If he's trying to get you not to do something, you know it's a lie. Because when you know it's the enemy, you know it's a lie. Why do I say that? Because he's the father of all lies. Okay? And the devil is afraid of you because he knows your potential. Even you. Okay. All right, let's see. Next one. Notice when you are being self-critical. Man, can you say bam? Yeah, bam. Notice when you're being self-critical. When you're being critical, you need to put that on pause. That's that critical voice, okay? And it may be your voice. Sometimes it is because we listen to our voice better than anybody else's voice. But it may be somebody else that really demonstrated harsh, critical statements. Okay, and sometimes you would hear that. But when you recognize that, you need to be aware of that critical voice. Okay, you need to notice it when that's happening. And you need to be aware of it. And then the next statement I think here is this, notice when you're having this critical, well, somewhere in here, it talks about having a conversation with your critical voice. In other words, challenge that critical statement. Hello? Challenge that critical statement. how would you challenge that critical statement? That your critical voice is screaming at you?
Let me just get out there and step in the water.
And how would you challenge that? How would you challenge the critical voice?
Stand up and do it.
Just do it? Okay, that's one way. But that's just doing it. That's doing it in spite of it. Do I?
Think first.
Yeah, think, right? Well, what I'm looking for is challenging it by asking a question. The question that it's being critical, and it's criticizing you and ridiculing you and trying to use shame or fear on you, right? Hello? And then asking the question, is that really true? Is that absolutely the truth? Oh, everybody hates you. Okay, have you ever heard that one? Is that true? Everybody hates me? Is it absolutely the truth that everybody hates me? You know what? When you start to get into your sane mind, because when the criticalness comes at you, it pushes you into your insane mind, right? Hello? It pushes you in your insane mind. So when you start asking that question to your critical voice, is that true? Is that really true? You're starting to clear up your ability to think and to start to come into more sanity. Because see, if that critical voice can deregulate you emotionally, cause you to be overwhelmed, frantic, upset, nervous, mad, whatever, it's got you, right? Because then you go into a reactionary behavior. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, okay? And so, speak to it. Address it. And you automatically start to turn the tide. Instead of it being in control, you're challenging it, and you're starting to take control of your own thinking. What do you think about that? Good idea? Okay. Notice the negative messages of your internal critic, which basically I've already hit that, but we need to be aware that that internal critic is always is negative, trying to negatively affect us, trying to limit us, trying to cause us to actually oftentimes shrink down or blow up, right? Okay.
I was thinking sometimes the smaller I feel, the louder my voice is.
Yeah, and because it's winning, but if you can't get, it's a process, okay? It's a process, because it's all a process. But these are just some ideas. You can't do all of them, particularly right off the bat, but you may have one that you're able to use, or one that will come to you when in the valley of the shadow of death, you think about, wait a minute, that's that critical voice. I need to address it. I need to talk to that. I need to challenge it. I need to be focused on this emotion. What am I feeling? I remember many years ago I took a class on rational emotive therapy, and the first step is to ask yourself, what am I feeling? Okay? All right? And he said, well, if you have a hard time figuring out what you're feeling, because sometimes we do, and I did. Why? Because I'd cut my feelings off. So feelings causes behaviors. So he said and this is Dr. Albert Ellis, and he said, back up to your behaviors. Look at what you're doing. Because what you're doing is a result of how you're feeling. Okay? Now, the thing of it is here, though, because now, back in the 60s and 70s, it was about behavior modification. It was all about behavior modification. Anybody remember any of that? Probably not, because most of you. And it was about behavior modification, and that was controlling your behaviors. The fact of it is, that took willpower, and willpower, you only have a little bit of willpower, even the best of us, okay? So then they move to controlling your emotion, okay? And they said, speak them out and bottle them up and all kinds of different things. But the real deal here is to look at your behaviors. It shows your emotion or what you're feeling. And then there's something that creates that feeling, and that's what you're thinking, your thoughts. And I know some of that's cyclical, but you look at your thoughts and you say, what am I thinking? What caused me to feel this way? What thought did I think to cause this? Anyway, going through all these processes, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to learn yourself so that you can navigate life in a healthier way. And that's recovery. And when you have recovery, when you're better in inside, when you have dealt with the monsters inside, the fears and the hurts inside, then you're better able to deal with all those other behaviors that and substances and thought patterns and emotions that you have used to try to modify or navigate or keep you in being able to try to move through life. Trouble is, it's usually you try to control and then it explodes, and it tries to control and then it explodes, right? And that's because we haven't ever dealt with the stuff, deep stuff inside, the monsters inside, the hurts inside, the fears inside. So we need to address that. So the key thing here is, would you be willing to forgive yourself? Now, we're talking about the steps here, and we're talking about making a list, step 8, to try to get ready to make some amends. It's not talking about making amends yet. It was talking about getting ready to make those amends by a list and the willingness to do something about it. And the thing of it is, that's good stuff to help us to retrain ourselves, because we're trying to clean up our mess, and that helps us to make some changes in our life. That's good. But the fact of it is, there are a lot of things in our life that we can't make amends for, we can't fix, we can't repair. And that's where the only way through that is through forgiveness. The forgiveness that God has given us. And that you need to appropriate that forgiveness on yourself. But, He's given it, you need to be willing to receive that. A terminology that some people disagree with is forgiving yourself. You're not really forgiving yourself, you're just receiving the forgiveness. But it's a fact of that you are willing to allow that. You don't have the power to forgive yourself, but He has given us forgiveness. And will you receive that so that you can let it go? You can't fix it, because there's a lot of stuff in life that we can't fix. Stuff in the past. It may be people that have died, situations there's no repair. Fact of it is, a lot of that stuff can't be fixed. We can try to make some amends, and that does more for us than it does for anybody we make amends to. Of course, we don't want to harm those folks anymore. That is an exception to the amends clause. So we need to be willing to forgive ourselves.
Something that really helps me is that serenity prayer,
Good.
that means serenity to accept things that cannot change.
And there's so many things that we can't change, right? Which is just about everything, right? We can't change the past. We can't change the future. We can affect it. And sometimes we can't even control our present behaviors. But if we not put so much energy on the things that we can't control, which is the Serenity Prayer, we put the energy into things that we can control or affect, then we get healthier results. Anything else? Any comments on any of that so far? Tommy, you had something there?
No.
I do. What lives in the dark is not so live in the light.
Say it again.
Therefore, whatever lives in the dark does not live in the light. It dies in the light. So therefore, if we're feeling lonely, depressed, or whatnot, if we can bring that out, even if it's uncomfortable at first, once we bring it out into the light, whether it's with somebody we know or we don't, I don't care if you're calling somebody on the phone you've never met before, just get it out and say it. When you hear yourself say it, it's not so scary no more.
Yes.
It's only scary in your head more than it is in reality. We
Right.
always like to make these mountains out of molehills.
Right.
And that's kind of where, I got my most release from. Was
Good.
being willing and to say something, because no matter how scary it is, there's always someone that's got a worse story than me.
And that's, yeah, light destroys the darkness. And that stuff that's inside of us that we have suppressed and put into that deep dark hole that's inside of us, we get in there and we look at it, and it's hard, it's scary, but the fact of it is, it's healthy and it's important.
Talk therapy.
Talk. You know, one of the things that on this other things is that finding somebody, a safe person that you can connect with, that you're able to talk to, because talking releases something inside of us. Because we hear it, we've said it, and another piece of that that's really good, if we can write it down. Because for me, when I was able to put it down in black and white, it becomes real then, and it changes. It goes from abstract to more concrete and real. And so, but talking is so important. Brings it into the light. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, what devotion was on Celebrate Recovery. That's pretty awesome how that works. Secrets.
Yeah.
Bringing things to light.
And bringing them into your own personal life. Okay, that's one level. But and then being able to come to the place that you're able to share that with a safe person, even brings it to another level. And you think about King David in the Psalms, where most of the time when he went to God, he was mad, he was upset, right? And he spoke it out. But if you go ahead and you've going through that, eventually that kind of tapers off, and then he begins to see the blessings of God and the provision of God, and it begins to turn. And that's that speaking and writing, that brings it out of the light, so that, because I like this, and I think Brene Brown says this. He says, in the absence of data, our brain will make up any kind of story. And we want to tell stories to ourselves, and most of the time what we're talking about here is scary stories, or terrible stories, or shameful stories, right? Okay? Any other comments or questions on that? I'm just going to hit the main points here, and then we'll shut it down. I don't know. If I go into that, it's going to be, I got 9 points of that, but let me just hit these 4 points. And shame is the most painful emotion we can experience. Shame and guilt are different emotions. Okay, shame Shame is that we believe, well, let's start with guilt. Guilt is that I've made a mistake, okay? I've made a mistake. Shame is not that I just made a mistake, that I am a mistake. There's something wrong with me. Not that I did something bad, which would be guilt, but I am bad, okay? And oftentimes, particularly in those areas where we can't make amends, we can't fix it, there's no way out, and I've done so much or whatever, then that, when you feel that way, then you go that I'm bad because I've done so much bad, that's shame. And that's destructive, okay? So there are two different emotions, okay? And guilt and spiritual remorse is basically recognize you've done something wrong so that you can deal with it. Okay? You recognize it. Okay? Deal with it. Whether you do it directly or you do it between you and God or with the individual. I said something here last Thursday to a guy, and it wasn't about him. As he commented about something, and I made a comment, and I was actually just trying to be maybe a little humorous, but the fact of it is, later on I thought, that's not good. In fact, I saw the guy I spoke to this morning, and I was going to apologize to him because I know he didn't didn't have an issue, but I wanted to clean up my own mess. Okay, even though to him it wasn't a mess, but to me it is a mess. And he was on the phone, so I wasn't able to do that. But I will get a chance to do that because I want to be better. Okay, yeah, it was kind of a joke, sarcastic little joke, but it was something that I don't want to be that way. Does that make? I know it's abstract, but that's the way it is. So, second one, shame can begin in childhood. Okay, and that's that. Most of our personality and how we're going to live life, and I don't mean this to sound overwhelming, is usually by the age of 5. And so because we come in a blank slate and we start acquiring information and life patterns, and we just believe what we're exposed to. Why shouldn't we? Okay, right? But the fact of it is, just because that's how I was trained, directly or indirectly, doesn't mean that they're totally responsible for what I do, particularly after I get older in life. I have to take responsibility, even if I was taught wrong. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Very good. So a lot of shame starts in that way, and we have to deal with it. I remember one time I was standing in the back of my house in my bedroom, and my wife and daughter, so this has been a long time ago because she was preteen, and my wife said something to her because she did something, and she said something to her, but she said it in such a way, I don't even know what she said, but it was the tone. I felt shame immediately. And I thought, where did that come from? What is that? And I looked at that. And I realized, from in my childhood, I looked back and I figured out where that came from. And tried to process that and come to be able to be in a healthier place. And that's the last time I remember having that particular feeling, okay? Right? And see, if we can eliminate these dark pockets of darkness, bitterness, hatred, hurt, pain, if we can bring the light to those things, then we're not pushed around, or we're not having to carry all that stuff all the time, and we are then set free. I had a guy tell me this morning, he said, I called my dad and talked with him, and because I want to be a great dad for my kids. And I don't want this stuff that I feel in me to affect my children. That's a good thing, don't you think? And he said he talked to his dad about that. He lives in another state. And so I said, how does that feel? He said, it feels good. I said, that's freedom. And that stuff won't be pushing you around as much or as often and causing you to do stupid stuff that you regret. Because we all been pushed around and we did stupid stuff, right? Yes, Mike.
Life's hard, you lose both parents.
Say it again.
Life's hard, you lose both parents.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It is.
So, next one, shame has warning signals. Okay, shame has warning signals, and this is in some of the literature that I'm not going to go over, but I'm going to touch on it. And what does that mean, warning signals? Well, if you can't look people in the eye, if you look down, if you avoid having contact with people, if you don't want to go to places because you have fear of rejection, or you don't want to be put on the spot. One of the things we do around here, and I don't make people do the things they do. I encourage people to do the things they do because I want to set them free. I want them to. I want you to grow. I want you to develop. Okay, and shame locks up all of us, and what we have to do is deal with that shame and free ourselves. What do you think about that statement? Okay. All right. Last one on the four keys here, key points. There is a cure for shame, and I already talked about this a little bit. The cure is having safe, healthy person and or place that you can let yourself start to become more and more authentic, real. Okay. Last week, Renee got up and talked, and she shared some stuff from her heart. And most people may not realize that was big, big, big stuff, okay, for her. Just to be able to talk about some of that stuff. Because, see, we want to hide all that stuff from ourselves and, of course, from everybody else. Yes? Yes. Questions?
Just got a comment on that, the shame and the guilt. I was thinking about King David in Psalm 32, where he talked about, where he committed adultery with Bathsheba.
Yes.
And he covered it up by having her husband murdered out in
Right.
the line of battle. And he comes here in Psalm 32 and says, "Oh, verse 1, what joy for those whose disobedience is forgiven and whose sin is put out of sight. Yes, what joy for those whose record the Lord is cleared of guilt, whose lives are lived in complete honesty."
Who's cleared up guilt. Cleared up guilt. Right? That's what I said, right? Cleared up guilt. Put out of sight. It's cast them far as from the east to the west. And if he can take our sins and do that, why can't we let him? Right? You say, well, because it's hard. Yeah, I know it's hard because you think that you should punish yourself. But you know what? God wants to take them. Because he's already paid for them. You have to be willing to let it go. Because you can't fix that stuff. Right? Right? You can't fix it. And when you let it go, then he's cleaned it up. He's lightening it. And I know you know, you think, well, it's a formula and it's zip, zang, bang, it's done. But sometimes it can be that way, but oftentimes it's not. It's a process. Because we hold on to that stuff because we think we think we're doing God a favor by beating up and tearing ourselves up. And that's not what He wants. He wants us to be free. If He can take it and cast it away, can we just let it go? Anything else before I close? Thanks for listening. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for being here. Thanks for you out in internet land for listening. I had several comments and some that said hi earlier, and I wasn't able to get to say everything because trying to be in the meeting and trying to do all that other stuff at the same time. But please, if any of this is helpful, let us know. Okay, because we want to do things that are helpful. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may His face shine upon you and give you His peace and make healthy choices. Right?
Right.
And be a good idea to be in church tomorrow. Yes. Till not next week, we won't be here, but it'll be in 2 weeks. So.